Hello everyone, this is Sanjeev from interviewbox.tech. In today's video, I'm going to talk about Python unit testing framework, that is unit test. So like how you can use the unit test framework to test your code that you write for your application. So let's go over some of the points. So unit testing is a concept of testing the application code in smaller parts. So smaller parts of an application is basically referred as the units like classes, modules, or functions. Python provide built-in module called unit test to achieve unit testing, and it is basically a framework. So whenever you write your code, you write the unit test basically to test your code that yes, you are able to handle all the inputs, all the edge cases, the corner cases, and your code is basically able to handle all the different kind of input that you provide. And to find the more documentation, I have pasted the link here. Let me open that link as well. So here's the link from the official Python documentation about the unit test. So you can go here and read more about the unit testing, like how you can achieve the unit testing by using the different scenario. But in today's video, I'm going to talk about a couple of assertions, that how you can write assertion to basically validating the different kind of input to your program. So like for example, as you see here, assert equal is one of the method that you pass your input, and is basically check if your inputs are equal, and the same is like assert not equal. And the interesting one is kind of assert raises is basically you raise assert in your program to make sure that your unit testing is able to test that yes, your program, if somebody is giving different kind of input, your program is able to raise the proper exception on that. So we will go over that, and for that, let's go to the PyCharm, and then we will write some code to achieve that. So here in PyCharm window, I'm going to create a new Python file. Let's name it number operation, because I'm going to show the example of like adding numbers and kind of dividing number. So let's write the name numbers operation. Write a simple program to add two numbers here. So I will say def is like how you define the method. Okay, so you add, you define the method like add two numbers, you pass two number, number one and number two, and very simple is like you get the result of two number. And return the result. So if you call these this method, and for example, or you say like 2 and 5, and you print the result, so let's run this, and it will give you the output 7, as you can see here. So it gives you the output 7. So now we know that our program is working. You pass two integer value, it calculates the sum of two numbers, it return back that. But how you can test it, it's like that is like the unit test framework that you can use to write it, right? So let's write a unit test program, basically writing a file. So I'm going to write a new Python file, and let's say the name of this is test numbers operation. And then in this you will you have to import the unit test module. So you import that, and then you import your original script, that is basically our numbers operation where we have written our method. Okay, so we import that, and then we have to write a class where we will create our unit test method in the class itself. So let's name the classes like test numbers. Okay, so now let's write a method. So we'll say to test our original method, let's name it test numbers positive. This is method to test if your input is like both numbers are positive. Okay, so we have to make sure the proper indentation is there. So here we will say result will be our, we will call the function that is numbers operation, that is our original file, and from that we will call the method add two numbers, and let's pass the input, for example 4, 6, right? And this is gonna calculate the sum of two numbers, and we know that our expected output will be 10, right? That's what we know. So here we will use the assert equal to make sure that our function is basically returning the output as a 10, and that's what we were expecting. So we will do the assert equal on those two values, result and expected. So we'll say self dot assert equal, and it will be result and expected. Okay, so we have write this method. So let's run this file and see what is the output here. Okay, so as you see here, it says like it ran one test in 0.002 second, and our output I think is coming from here. So let me comment it out this. Okay, go back here, run the program, and here you see it ran one test and it's okay. So okay means it's pass. So whatever the input you are passing to your function, and we know the expected output is 10, so we are able to get the same. But for example, we say 4,7, right? We pass this input, and the expected output will be 11, but we say like no, it's 10. So let's run this, and you will see it's gonna fail. Okay, so you see here it says failed, and it says 10 is not equal to 11 because your program is giving the output is 11, but you were expecting 10. So that's how you basically test your code to know like, okay, your program is working in a proper way based on the input that you are providing. Okay, so let's type couple of more method here. Right now we have only write the test case to make sure that both numbers are positive, but what if we can say if one number is negative, for example, then let's say test one number negative. And by the way, so whatever the test you have you will write here, it must start with the test keyword. That's how this framework will check that yes, this method is like a test method. So it must start with the test keyword here. Okay. Okay, so let's pass the input here. So it's self, because it's a class, so in the method you have to define the self keyword, and so let me copy paste here instead of writing the whole thing together. I can just use this. So number of person at 2. Okay, so 4 and minus 6, and now we know that our expected output will be minus 2, right? So we will say minus 2, and we will do again the assert. Okay, so that's right. So now let's look at the example where you have like a type mismatch in the input, like you pass like one input as an integer, one is like a string, for example, and we'll see like your program will raise some exception. So for example, if I ran this program with one integer and one like string, and if I run this, and you see here it says type error, it says unsupported operand type for int and string, right? So your program is not able to raise any exception. It's just basically reporting the error. So how you can catch that things? So what you can do for that in your program, you will say if type of your number 1 is not int, or type of number 2 is not int, then you just raise the exception. Like you can say raise type error, and you say type mismatch. Okay, so now if you run this and you see it's basically raising the exception this time, and it says type error, type mismatch, right? It caught this point. So now your program is basically raising a proper exception, and you have to add the code here so that you can properly define that in the unit. Through the unit testing you can verify. So let's say test 1 number invalid, and in this you have to call with the context format. So let's type that. You say like with assert. Okay, so with self dot assert raises, so we have to add. So what you will looking here is the type error from your program when there is a type mismatch, and you say number operations dot to number, and it could be like 5 and high. So now you added this, and in the program you already added you are basically raising the exception here for the type error, and the same you write your unit test to check if your program is properly raising that exception. So let's run this, and you see here it says 3 test cases, ran 3 tests, and all are pass here. So that's how you basically raise the exception from your code if there's input type is different, like where you see that it could be like there's a different error type, like it's a type error, or it's a syntax error, or it's a name error, or it's a value error. So based on the different input type you can raise the exception, the different exception for the different error, and in the unit test you basically make sure that yes, when your program is raising the any exception, you are able to check that. So that's how you write. So let's look at one more example, like when you are dividing two numbers. I can write another program here where we say like def like divide two numbers, and it will be same number 1, number 2, and then our result will be 2, and then it's gonna return result. Okay, so you take two numbers, you divide the numbers, and you return the result. And let's write a unit test here to make sure yes, your program is working. Okay, so def, like, we'll say test divide by number. So then here you get your class name and then your method, divide two numbers, and let's type, like, for example, 7 comma 2. Okay, and then you know that your output should be 3.5, right? So that's your expectation. So you say expected 3.5, right? And then you do assert on that. So assert on result, comma, expected. Okay, so save this and let's run this. Okay, so now it ran all the 4 tests and all are pass. But for example, if you say my output will be 3, for example, but then it's gonna fail. If let's try to run this, and you see here, so it failed here. It says 3 is not equal to 3.5. Okay, so that's how you can make sure that yes, your program is written correctly and it's able to handle all different kinds of input. So now let's write another program that I'm gonna show you another error type. So far we have seen the type error. Now let's look at the value error exception. So again, start with the test keyword and divide by 0. Okay, because we know, like, if you divide any number with a 0, it's like exception, because that's not allowed, right? It's gonna be infinite. So test divide by 0, you add that, and now with the same method with self dot assert raises. So I'm writing the test first, and then I will add the exception in the main program. So we are checking, like, okay, if our program is raising exception, so self.assert raises, we will check value error that will be raised by the program, and then we call number operations dot divide two numbers, and let's say 6,0. Okay, so now let's go to the script here and type the code to catch the exception, and we say, like, if number 2 is 0, then raise value error, and it says divide by 0 is not allowed. Okay, something like that. So let's do that, and now if we will run, and then we will make sure that yes, our test case is pass, because that's what we expect, right? Because our program is properly raising the exception. So here you see it's ran all the test case and all the 5 test cases are passed. So that's how you basically write. So you first write your program and you make sure that you are handling all different kind of input, like here we did If it's a mismatch, then our program should raise the error like type error. And if we are dividing, our method is dividing two number, then we will make sure that we are raising the exception if the user passed the second number as a 0, because that is not allowed. So we have to cover all the different scenario in our program, and that's what you do right in your unit test test cases, to verify that yes, your program is able to handle all different kind of input and it's raising the proper exception error. So that's all for today's video. I want to add one more thing here. If you are running your Python, this unit test Python file from your command line, instead of importing. Right now I was just right clicking and running it in PyCharm, but you can run from command line, and for that you can check if double underscore name double underscore is equal main, then what it's going to do is going to run the main class of your unit test. So you will call unit test dot main. So that's how it will, you can call through the command line, and it will run the test case, all the test case that defined here. Okay, so that is one last thing I want to add. So yeah, so feel free to go and read the documentation, the Python documentation, more about the unit testing framework, and put in the comments for any questions you have, or if you want to know more about this. I just show some couple of basic example, but yeah, you can achieve more with the unit testing, and this is really useful. Sometimes like when you are going for the interview, interviewer asks you to write a code, and then at the end interviewer can also ask you to write the test code. So you can write the unit test code and run it and make sure that yes, your program is working fine. So that's really useful. And even in in the real life, whenever you are writing code, it's always good to have your unit test written to verify your program. So that's all for today's video, and if you like this video, please press the like button, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel, and stay tuned for all the upcoming videos. And thank you and have a great day.